Okay.
Yeah, so my friend who's a skin therapist, she's like our skin, our scalp, like nature does this work for us. You don't have to spend money to get products to do that for you and then spend money on other products to reverse what that product did to that, right? Like it makes no sense. But like that's what we're always taught, is that like we need these products to do these things for us, and that'll make us like feel better about ourselves. It's all about self-worth, right? Those guys, they know how to like,
dig in there.
yeah, it's really brilliant. But once you see through it, then you're like, oh my gosh, like there's so much crap I have in my life that I don't need.
That you don't need, or that you just like, you've spent countless dollars on, that literally is doing nothing for you. It's actually doing the reverse, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, like you stopped combing your hair, gave yourself dreads so you didn't have to deal with the grease. And I said, okay, vinegar for no poo method. But I've been doing other things too, like olive oil as my cleanser, like, and my makeup remover. Literally, I rinse my face, put some olive oil on, rinse again, and put some more olive oil on, and voila.
Perfect.
And like my skin, like clearly it's not dry, so it's not breaking out. It's not overcompensating. It's amazing. And you have it in your kitchen.
Yeah, I have heard of that. And also, if you don't wash in the morning, like this dewy glow that I have, I never wash in the mornings, and it felt really weird at first. I was like, ooh, it feels like my face is dirty. But like overnight, your glands do all these magical things for you to protect your skin for the rest of the day. And then I just put on like some serum in the morning, and I don't have to think about my face until that night when I wash it again.
Yeah,
it's pretty sweet.
It is sweet.
So yeah, like living. I think we got on all this because we were talking about like living in a more minimalist way.
Yeah, for sure.
And buying less products for things is definitely a huge part of that.
You got to get through it. Well, and it's, you know, the more I go down like my healing journey, like either through like spirituality or like letting go of energy and blockages and all of that stuff, the more that I actually end up reacting to a lot of these products. Like, I mean, you know, like especially with my fibromyalgia, I guess too, but like, you know, if my immune system's off, I'll like the smell of like the really strong like chemicals in like perfume, for instance. Like I can't even do it. So like, or I'll really start to stink when I use those. Like after a week of using it, I'm like, man, I stink. So I have to go back to using like salt or something like that instead.
Yeah. Because our body like when we start like changing things and doing all that work, then I've seen people like get really angry about it, like, oh, I'm so sensitive. And it's like, oh man, we just got to flip that, because all it means is that you're listening to your body now. And it's able to tell you, hey, I don't like that. Hey, I don't like that smell. I don't like that feeling. I don't like that food. And like, it's like at first people are frustrated. They're like, oh, like I can't handle these things anymore. It's like, actually, that's really, really fucking good, because then you're able to start setting those boundaries of like what your body can't have based on how you feel, which is all it is mindfulness. Like that's all I teach my clients, is like, this isn't about what food is good or bad. It's about mindfulness and what's good for you. That's it.
Yeah.
So that's hard on people at first, but it's like, no, that's like, now we're listening to our body's signals, and that's number one. That's all we have. That's the only guidance that we need.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the biggest shift in my journey, honestly, with like healing and getting better and like learning how to manage my fibro, was honestly knowing that there was a mindset component to it, that it was so important, and it was so key to actually focusing on who I was and making sure that I was putting not only in my body what my body wanted, not based on anybody else's like decision for me, like, oh, be a vegan, oh, be a vegetarian, oh, be paleo, oh, be this, because I've done it all. But like literally putting something in my body and going, okay, does that feel good? Nope. Okay, you're out. Or knowing, at least when I do eat it, the repercussions that I'm going to have. So like, you know, like this weekend, my kind of like adopted parents were here in Switzerland, and we went out to Gruyere and ate like cheese and chocolate and milk and everything that is good for Switzerland, but horrible for me. And so now I'm paying for it, you know, like it's 3 days later and I've got like headaches and my skin's breaking out a little bit. And I know that this is what's going to happen. So it's just, in a way, like it can feel like a blessing and a curse, I think, until you accept the fact that to level up, to get better, and this is going to be super important while consulting, is that there's this huge mindset that has to like shift. You have to feel it and know that you're listening to you, and that is the most important, and that's what gives you that like solid foundation to like kick butt on.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I kind of like to like poke that and test that for people, which is kind of like an asshole thing to do, but like
really
when
nice, Raina.
when they come back, like after they've like done some work and they're like eating more veggies and feeling good, then they'll come back sometimes and be like, oh man, I hear this all the time, such a bad girl. Oh, what did you do? Oh, well, I had a bunch of wine and I had chocolate and chips, whatever. It's like, oh, okay, let's do more of that. Right? And they're like, what? Like my nutritionist is telling me to have more junk food, but I'm literally like getting them to make themselves feel crappier longer. So that they're like, holy crap, I just need some vegetables.
Yeah.
And it's really like, it's hilarious. I would never do that with a one-off client. I only do that with the clients that I work really long term with. But it's literally like, hey, like if you think that feels good, keep doing that. And then after a few days, they're like, this is happening, this symptom, and it's like, there you go. Right? And now it's like really driven in that you understand that what you're putting in your mouth is affecting how you feel, not only that day, but like days later, like you said. 3 days later, and you're still paying. It's like, that's unfortunate, but then you really get it. And maybe next time you'll only have a little bit of cheese or what. I don't know. Normally not. I wouldn't if I were you.
No, it's a conscious decision instead of being like, instead of like it being a negative thing for me now, which it was for a long time, was like, oh, I'm like abstaining from what everybody else can be eating, right? It's now more for me like, it's a conscious decision, like, okay, I'm going to allow myself, you know, to have the space to feel this way with like knowing it. And so like when you are in that space, instead of going, oh my God, why do I feel this way? This is really shitty, da, 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 da. I'm able to go, okay, well, you know why, and you're dealing with it, and use all the other magical tools that I have to deal with it as well.
Totally.
I like how you said, like, I don't want to say like force feeding them, but like, it's totally like the binge, you know, the weekend binge that you haven't had.
It's like I'm asking them to binge more.
Which it works though. And it's, it's definitely like a reverse psychology kind of thing. Like, but you know, at the end of it, like
when I tell people, I'm like, there's methods to my madness. Just trust me.
Well, when you get to this stage, I think when you've been consulting for as long as we have you, I think longer than me even, it's kind of like you have to push these barriers and these questions with people, because just saying like, oh, switch out grains and all of these things, that might not be enough if it's like a mindset thing, which most of the time it is. It's an acceptance that you're a human and their bodies function a certain way, eating a certain way, and living a certain way.
I used to think like, oh, it's like the majority of my clients that need help, like psychologically, spiritually, emotionally. And now I'm like, no, it's 100%. Like there's literally no one that's been like, oh, that switch you told me to make about, you know, whatever, gluten or whatever it is, or dairy, like that's never the best thing that they got out of working with me. It's always the, you know, you got me to think about food differently in this regard, or 100% I'm never dieting again. And that to me means so much more than, oh, I don't eat dairy anymore. Like, fuck. Okay, whatever. But like, what's your brain like? What's your mind like? What's it like living inside your body? How does it feel? Like, that's what's more important to me, right? So that's sort of been when I took a course in cognitive behavioral therapy a number of years ago, and that's how I developed my Change Makers program. And that is all about that, exactly what we've been talking about in mindfulness, and getting people to change their perspective on it, and instead going from how does it feel rather than, you know, what externally I'm told, because like the bottom line is people are super fucking overwhelmed. There's just too much information out there. It's insane. And people make themselves crazy by trying to figure out what's right for them. And so when they get to the point where they're so fed up with it that they're willing to invest a lot of money to work with a nutritionist, then it's like, you won't have to pay money for dieting stuff ever again after this investment, because you're going to know what works for you just based on your body. And then as that changes, like as your body changes and evolves, then you'll be able to keep up with that. Like then you never have to be like seeking and worrying ever again, right? So it's really, really powerful to come from that place of mindfulness and have it be about that, then be just about the food.
Yeah, because it's really a lifestyle
It's weird.
change.
It's like when you're studying nutrition, you never think it's going to be like that. I never thought it would be like that.
No, me neither. And I think it took me a long time to realize that, you know, like Sean thought I was shooting myself in the foot by creating our like body, mind, spirit guide for nutritionists. And I was like, no, Sean, this is all that it comes down to is like the shit that somebody's packing with them. Like, are they stuffing their face because they're not feeling well? Are they coping? Are they like, what is the behavior behind the eating? And the feeling, like you said, feeling in your body, your mind, your soul, your, you know, like, do you feel bad eating certain things? And I always say, one last thing I always say is like, think of where you started your nutrition journey. You know, like it was probably on the internet, like digesting all of the information and having all of these things. And then you went through this and then you went through that. That's what I did. And then it wasn't really until I started diving into me that I realized that when you want to feel good and you want to be better, it's a whole bunch of different things, not just food.
Totally. And that, like, you really do need someone to help you with that, you know, like like if you kind of try to do that yourself, like people can really sort of flounder, and so to have that like to have that support behind you of someone that has led people through that and sort of understands what it might look like, because it can get messy. Like people don't want to look at some of this shit, right? And I've worked with people before, they're like, oh, I need to go to therapy. And it's like, yeah, do it. Like everyone needs a therapist. Like that's not bad for knowing that you need that. And I think everyone needs one. And but that, like that looking can be daunting, right? It's like, oh, I don't know if I want to go there. It's like, yes, we have to go there. Actually, we get to go there, right? Like spin it. I always trying to spin it. Spin the perspective.
Changing the I'm sure you use like positive talk and affirmations and stuff in the work that you do. And if you do
not really
no. Hey.
Like, you mean with clients?
Yeah.
Or just for me? No, but you know what? A lot of them do that anyway. It's already part of, a lot of them have personal practices. They've either been doing yoga for a while or they have a meditation practice. And so they're kind of, you know, and journaling, they're kind of into that stuff anyway. So I don't usually have to incorporate that for them.
That's good. So
I wouldn't be good at that. I don't think I'd be good at that.
Interesting. Okay, so do you want to explain a little bit more about what you've been working on at like Eat the Counterculture and other projects that you do? I mean, you have all the things that you do.
It's actually insane. It's great though. Okay, so Eat the Counterculture has a really funny history because I actually started that Facebook page as an outlet for me to have something fun to do on the side of work. And I was like, what do I want to see on the internet? I want to see the sexy rock and roll gods that I love. And I want to see organic food and stuff about like self-development and healing and things that make me happy. And so I started this page, and like it was not going to be part of business. It was literally just like, this is like a fun thing I want to do. And it turns out that a lot of other people also liked that kind of stuff. So I was like, the page grew really quickly, and I started to find that some of the folks on the page were then finding like me in other aspects on the internet. So they would join my group, or a lot of them friend request, which I don't add strangers on Facebook, but you know, it's still like neat to see that people understand, appreciate the information enough that they want to to be in touch with the person who founded that page. It's really cool. So so I changed the name of my Facebook group to Eat the Counterculture. And basically, I mean, because a lot of people are like, well, what does that mean? That, like, I had many people ask me, what does Eat the Counterculture mean? Of course, I'm working on a blog about this. I have talked about it before, but the interesting thing about the internet is that there's so much on it that you can say the same thing over and over again, and people will be like, oh, that's interesting. It's like, well, I've been saying that for 9 years, but okay. So, when I first started studying nutrition in 2010, it was in Kitsilano in Vancouver. And that's like a hippie haven. Like back in the 60s, West 4th Avenue was called Rainbow Road. And that's where all the hippies would gather and talk about their political activism and their rallies and things they were trying to do and movements that were happening. And so it was kind of like the Haight-Ashbury of Canada, and Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco, which is where all the hippies gathered. And so when I was in Kitsilano, even though it obviously is not like that anymore, because it's not the 60s, I very much felt connected to that time and space. Like I started, and I had already taken an interest in the music and the culture of the 60s, but being in Kitsilano, like really like dug me in there. And so I started like meditating and wearing tie-dye and experimenting with different natural deodorants, all these kind of things that are like our starter steps on our little hippie journey. And it's like going to yoga classes and sort of dabbling in different things that I hadn't done before. And I grew up in Asuyas. It's a super small town, so I was not exposed to these things before. And so going through that program in that year and sort of being steeped around this place that had a lot of hippie history, and I started to learn that a lot of the hippies in the 60s, they have a bad rep. A lot of people just think they were, sitting around having sex and having smokes and just being party people. But a lot of them were working really fucking hard to change the world. A lot of the hippies that I've been meeting, because I've been actually working on a book for a number of years now and interviewing hippies that were there and just learning about the movements. A lot of them were working really, really hard to get back to our roots in food. And so they were in the food movement in the 60s. They were, a lot of them started a lot of the programs that we have now for organic food, for community gardens, like that awareness of let's stop eating processed shit and eat real food again. A lot of that started with them because it was in the 50s and 60s when processed foods became really hot and they were selling them to housewives. It was like, here's the fancy new astronaut food. You just cook it up quick and then it's ready to go and you don't have to slave in the kitchen for hours to feed your family. And it was the hippies that were like, fuck that, or we're going to put vegetables in broth and eat a stew. And I've had just the most fantastic experiences interviewing hippies about their lives in the 60s and how they coped with living on communes with very little, eating roadkill. Like I've had really fascinating stories of how they survived and they had to learn these things too, right? Like there wasn't resources like we have now. You can hop on YouTube and learn how to live in the woods for a week. You couldn't do that back then.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how it all started, was me sort of tying in, okay, like most people when they start their healing journey, it kind of is like they're doing hippie things, but they're not doing it because they want to sit around and smoke pot and be in a sex revolution. It's because they're interested in self-development and they're interested in personal development and spiritually, well, this is weird to say, but spiritually improving themselves. And I saw that in a lot of the hippies that I've interviewed. Of course, there's people that didn't give a fuck about in the environmental movements or the food movement. Of course, a lot of them did just sit around and smoke and have fun. But to me, that was never an important part of what they were trying to do. To me, it was like they cared about stopping the war. They cared about changing the world. And a lot of them worked really, really hard to do that. And a lot of them dedicated their lives to living that lifestyle that would show, hey, I'm on this side. I don't care that you're on that side. This is what I stand for. And so Eat the Counterculture is sort of meant to be a visual representation of that imprint in time when sort of the world went to fucking all hell and people were trying to figure out where they were in that. And now with where we are now in 2020, we're living it again.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of my hippie friends or hippies that I've interviewed for my book who are in their 70s have said to me, it feels like it right now. It feels like we're living through that again. And for them, that's a fucking trip. But for me, it's like, oh my God, I get to do this. I get to do this. Like I've only, I've only thought maybe I did this in a past life, but now it's like that, and it's terrifying. I'm not saying it's fun, but it's like, okay, here, like, hold on to your panties. Here we go. Like, this is going to be a wild ride, but I feel like I've been prepping for it for a long time because I've been studying this for so long. And so I don't know if I even answered your question, but that's sort of the roots
That's a good one.
of Eat the Counterculture.
No, you nailed it, I think. And I think, my kids have been calling me a hippie for a really long time, like even when I started out on my baby journey, like with my little garden box and my granola, like, to be very like specific, right? It's, but I think the further you go down your food journey, the further you go down your reconnection with the earth and what you want to see in the world and what we're doing to it. And I think that's, where, okay, yes, we get called hippie all the time, but I think that's really where we do need to be helping our clients see to. Not just, eat a salad here and there to lose 10 pounds. And sure, if that's your niche, have at her. But I think to affect change, and for me, it really, that's what started my nutrition journey, was not so much, it was my health, but like learning how to eat. But then to learn how to eat well, I had to learn how to garden well, and I had to learn how to like have healthy soil and healthy, like, and not use pesticides. And that's really what got me into nutrition and learning about what the whole system looked like, and how it would be detrimental detrimental to not think about these things from start to finish. Where was I going with this? I had a whole other thing. Anyway, so yes, now I got it. So eco nutrition, when I was teaching at CSNN, was like the perfect way of.
I taught eco too.
Yeah, I loved eco. It's my favorite.
It's the eye opener one though. It's the like, holy fuck, wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's like, hey, here I'm going to tell you some really dirty truths, and you better be ready. And I think for me, being able to like add in little pieces of what I had learned along the way, more than just like, don't put things in glass and, plastic. Don't put things in glass, guys. Let me clarify. I really, what you're doing is amazing. I think it's a true expression of who you are. And I think that's really what we need to be in the nutrition world, is like showing up and being that person who we feel well, and we have learned to be too.
Yeah. And it's really hard. Like I connected with, like 60s and the counterculture movements then, and especially the music. Like I've been obsessed with that since I was like 14. So it's really, really, and I just turned 32. So that's it's a majority of my life has been like, I don't want to, like, in a way dedicated to that. And so it's like, it got harder and harder for me to keep suppressing that. Right. And especially when I got my dreads, it's like, okay, like it's like clearly trying to get out of you, like you should just embrace it, right? but because there's the stigma about it, I think that was the hardest part for me too, right? And of course people like and people in my family, you gotta get rid of those dreads, not professional. Oh fuck professional. Like I get clients, it doesn't hamper my business. People don't care what my hair looks like, and people don't care as much, not that they don't care, but the kind of clients that we need to attract are not going to be people that are going to be judging us for what we're wearing, or, oh, she doesn't have, $800 high heels. Like, no, those aren't our clients anyway. So we don't need to pander to those people that are going to be looking for that in a nutritionist. And if they are, it's like, there's lots of others. Like, go find the one that resonates with you. The other thing I wanted to bring up about what you had said earlier was, you said reconnecting to earth. And to me, that's really what hippie means. There's weird stigmas on it, and there's all these other things. But like that's actually what it is to me. And the coolest thing about that is that like that's actually like hippies took that from, you know, shamanism, and right, like that's
It's not
even
new.
hippie. That's
Yeah,
not
and it's
new.
not
It's the oldest
new.
thing.
It's the
It's the
oldest
oldest
thing.
thing
Like,
ever.
it's the part that we're missing.
Yeah.
It's the thing that people have known for thousands of years that we've 100% forgotten. You just gave
Oh
me
yeah.
shivers. Like, I have shivers. Anyways, yeah.
Goosebumps.
Yeah. 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 No, and that is, I mean, it's, I don't know if you're like, you said like you've been following like the hippie movement for a long time, and I've always felt super connected to the earth, but I've always, like you said, like either had limiting beliefs or somebody else's story was coming in or whatever it was that stopped me from expressing that part of me and truly being okay with it. Like, oh, your garden looks a little bit hippie. Yep, it sure does. Like,
Sure does.
it sure does, because it is a hippie garden. Like, it is well planted. There's lots of worms. Yes.
Yes.
You know, like, I guess it took a long time for me to feel comfortable stepping into that position. And I wanted to talk to you a bit today about like maintaining that energy while you're working with clients, but also finding it in the first place. Because I think in school, and you and I both went to CSNN, we're taught kind of a more clinical approach to working with clients, right? Like working kind of side by side with a naturopath and not working necessarily with somebody who's trying to get you to see the holistic approach, you know, from start to finish. So how do you find that energy in the first place? Let's start there.
So do you mean in terms of like energy to keep working and having that, or
like to be creative in your business and feel abundance and all of that?
Okay. Yeah, because I'm 9 years in now. So that you know, it's like probably like the 5-year mark and then the 7-year mark and then this year mark again. When you start to kind of burn out a little bit, is that what you mean? And you're like, yeah, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard because like the first few years, for me anyways, I put all of my passion into, you know, spreading the word and teaching about food. And then you kind of like are, and this is so cute to say now because like 5 years in, I'm like, oh, I'm 26. I'm so old. But you just start to get a little bit jaded where you're like, oh man, you know, like it doesn't really feel like we're doing anything here.
Yeah.
And it's like when you look at the big guys and, you know, every day you see the huge lineups at McDonald's and Tim Hortons, like after a while you're kind of like, am I doing anything though? Are we really accomplishing anything here? Because it doesn't seem like people give a fuck. Sorry for swearing so much, Lynne.
No, I'm like
And
a
so,
trucker dude, so you're
I
good.
do when I'm passionate. It's just like, wow, it comes out. So yeah, so it's hard because you kind of like hit these plateaus where you're like, yeah, people don't care, and so maybe I kind of shouldn't either. And so I've seen myself go through a cycle a few times where I kind of get a little bit depressed and I kind of am like, I don't really care. And of course I care for my clients, but like for the movement end of it, it's a bit of a struggle. I think that's probably part of why I started the Eat the Counterculture page, because it was like a fun side project. But I've also developed like a super Raina that I haven't seen in a really long time. She kind of showed her face when I was 22, and then I kind of like tucked her away because I was like, that's too scary. People don't want to see that. But like my art and I'm doing activism in a different way now, and so I'm able to find these new ways to express myself, and I think that's going to help me hopefully prevent my next, you know, future burnouts around having energy to keep going with it all. Because if you have something that can fuel like a burnout, to me has always been like it's emotions based, right? It's like I'm either angry about something or I'm sad about something, and it's finally come to a head, and I'm supposed to look at it. And so if I can do something with that energy, like channel it into art or channel it into activism or channel it into art activism, like some creative ways to like move that energy so it's not sitting in my body anymore. Because at the end of the day, you know, clients like they don't care about my stuff. They're coming to me for them. It has to be about them, right? So we have to sort of put our stuff to the side when people are coming to us, even when we're in a place where we're not feeling great about what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be really, really hard, but you have to, you know, it's like when you're having, it's like I'm single right now, which I love, but when you're in a relationship and you're having arguments, and you have to have that moment where you kind of set your ego aside to be like, okay, like let's not go there. Let's like just everybody calm down. Here's the actual issue and we'll discuss it. It's kind of the same thing. You have to, when you're with a client, put your shit away, and it's like what do you need? What is all about you right now, and how it can serve you. And that energy of being able to put your shit aside and just work on being in service to that person in front of you, that itself is a healing process. But it can feel hard when you're in not a happy place. But once you're in it, like if you're face to face with someone, whether it's, you know, on Zoom or in person, like once you're in it, it's like, of course it has to happen. It just happens, it just flows. And so it feels really good. And so, you know, that it's going to happen. And so you may as well just be prepared for it. I think having a good support system too, like with what you're doing with the hub, and having like a Facebook group of support, or even just having people around, like a couple people around you that care about, you know, the food movement or whatever you're into, like, you know, having people that are into yoga and meditation, or, you know, just having support. And I think a lot of people's support circles have changed. Mine certainly have in 2020.
Yeah.
I went from having a really big basket of close friends to having a really small basket. And that's an energy thing, right? It's just like, I'm not interested in that anymore. I'm interested in this. And this is all I have the emotional capacity to do right now. And so having that support system to back you, to, you know, be able to say like, hey, I'm not feeling very hot about what I do right now. It could just be like one sentence that someone will say to you that like reignites your fire, right? Like you don't, it's not kindergarten. You don't have people approving your accomplishments all day, right? So to have someone say like, oh, you know, I saw that post about whatever, and it made me feel this way, and like, you're doing really good work in the world. Like that can fuel me for months.
Yes.
When someone says that. And so, and it doesn't take anything from them other than them just being a good conscious person and wanting to spread good vibes. It's fucking hippies. But it's so powerful, right? Because it's like, oh, like someone notices, like someone's noticing, and that noticing is so helpful, because it actually pushes you to keep going. If we were doing our work and no one ever said to us like, hey, you're doing a really good job, you're going to burn out a lot, because you're not getting any appreciation for the time that you're putting in. And you know, whether you're online or sort of half online, also in person, it's a lot of work. And so we need those pats on the back once in a while. And I think a healthy support system is really important for that.
Yeah. Well, other nutritionists who know what they're like, what it's like to go through this, the mindset piece is so important, especially because we are doing energy work, you know, like we have to hold space for our clients. And I think honestly, if I'm real here, like that was probably one of my biggest mistakes, was not holding space for myself, right? Like not having the space to be me and express myself how I wanted to actually be in my life, and knowing that it was going to be different than what everybody except my close support system expected of me, you know. Like I think that was my number one mistake as like a new consultant coming fresh out of school, was I didn't give myself time for self-care and healing, and then also wasn't able to make space for my clients, and so they weren't getting the results that they wanted, and all of those things. So it's really interesting now that I feel like I'm being more myself and not trying to be somebody else's version of how a nutritionist should look. Like you said, you have 800 things on the go, but that's the same with me. Like I've started 4 different nutrition companies, and like it's because I come up with these ideas and I'm like, people must know, like
I must act this out.
exactly.
Yeah.
Until you really figure out that really, like, you don't have to act them all out, but some are
Yeah.
really good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like having that fun project on the side too that like does fuel your fire. You know, I've done things like, well, you make kombucha and art, and what else do? You have your eat the counterculture page,
Yeah.
and then what else?
I have a podcast just like you.
Yeah.
With my friend Nikki, and I do like, so I also do mentoring for other nutritionists. I have a couple different online programs, and I do miss doing talks. I used to do a lot of talks, like in um, whatever, physio clinics, yoga studios, museums. Like I would just get asked to do talks, and I love doing them. That was a big part of my practice. And then just writing, like I totally identify as a writer. It took me a long time to be able to identify as a writer, but I super love writing. I love writing my blogs. I've been working on my book for years. In March I started living in my van, so like nomad life is a new, not new, I've been nomadic for a number of years, but now in my van, like that's a whole other aspect of my life. That's like, now I have to like learn some mechanics, and I have to like think about interior decorating stuff and stuff I never really, was not in my world before. Kind of opened up some new things. So yeah, there's a lot on the go. And then, like removing all of that, there's also just like us like trying to cope with 2020. Like that's taken a lot of energy, and mental health was like number one on my plate for a number of months. Like when that first happened, I was really, really, really not good. And the way that I was coping with it was asking for other people to connect with me if they were also feeling anxiety. And so I had a lot of people that I was talking with that were also experiencing the same thing. None of them turned into clients. And it's okay though, because people were like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you giving your energy to people you don't know, and you're helping them with it? And I'm like, because it's helping me. Like that's why I'm doing it. It's actually not stressing me out, to be helping these people. And so, there's a lot of like uh, giving back to the community work that we can do behind the scenes that people don't even get to know about, right? Like there's a lot of organizations that I give money to that people don't, like, I never promote it. There's a lot of times that I will do free work for families who can't afford my nutrition services. I don't talk about it ever. So there's so much we can do behind the scenes, and people are like, oh, you're so busy. It's like, yeah, but also like there's a lot of self-care happening, and there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that like people don't know about. And I think I wanted to go back to what you were talking about, holding space for your clients, because I definitely know that was my mistake too. And I think it's one of those things where it's like, if you didn't learn it, someone said this to me last week, and I was like, that's fucking brilliant. If you didn't learn it the hard way though, did you really learn it? You learn the lesson, right? And it was like, absolutely. Like, I think everyone has to learn that lesson. You have to have a few clients where you're like, kind of trying to, it's your ego, right? You're like kind of trying to teach them, and then you feel weird about it, and then they maybe will stop working with you, or maybe it just organically ends, but you don't really feel very good about it. Then you're forced to learn how to hold space, or maybe you take a course on how to consult people so that you're working on your skills to be better at it, because it is totally an art. I believe consulting people is an art, and I'm always I'm always observing myself as I'm in a session with someone, because I want to see like that 360 view of like, what am I experiencing in this exchange? How are they experiencing me? And then also the information exchange. Like there's a lot to consider when you feel everything, right? And to sort of try to get that viewpoint on it, I think is really, really helpful too, because, as you said, like people need to have that space held for them, and they might, once you master it, and by master it I mean once you do it once, people might have never experienced that before, and they will have such a great experience with you as a consultant because they've never had any, like I remember one woman saying to me a number of years ago, no one's ever listened to me talk about my food shit like you. And it was kind of funny and cute, because I'm like, well, that's literally what I do for a living. Like, of course I'm going to do that if you're paying me. But it's like, how many years or decades did she try to get someone to understand her? and everyone just blew her off. And so like the healing for her wasn't even in the information I gave her. The healing for her was in having someone listen
Like
to her
feeling
talk about her
heard.
shit and get it
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was really powerful. But yeah, like you said, holding space is it's a huge part of it. And it's a really great way for us to hone in on our skills as consultants when we start looking at that.
For sure. I think, yeah, I'm just there's so many things I wanted to comment on. So I don't know if you ever watch my videos. It'd be cool if you did, but
I don't know if you do,
I don't
but
know if you do,
can you
but
twirl your hair too? What do you
so anyways, I did a video the other day for the hub. Well, I don't even know where to start because you said so many things and I have so many things that I want to like say. Anyways, did this video for the hub the other day, and people always ask me like, how do you know if you're a good consultant? And you said, okay, well, it's an art form. And it kind of is like this, for me, like this sphere of okay, first of all, like, is your room clean? Sean and I always use this as like our base, like going into coaching as either a PT or a nutritionist. We say, is your room clean? So like, have you done everything that you need to be doing for that day to feel cared for? You know, like, or are you skipping meals and not drinking enough water and meditating if that's what you need, your routine. And then challenged yourself in that routine and seen how the approach goes. Because when you're working on yourself continuously and continuously learning and growing, it's going to make you a better coach. It's going to make you a better teacher because you're experiencing those things at the same time. And I think as our businesses kind of grow and move, they grow and move with our learning as well and where we are at. So if you're sitting in a negative or empty space and your cup's not full and you're not taking care of yourself, your business is going to be doing the same thing. It's not going to be full of clients. It's not going to be abundant. It's not going to be there. Yeah.
Or if you do have some clients, their experience is going to reflect that.
Exactly.
They're going to be like, that felt a little off.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're not going to know, like, unless you have a good connection with your client, but at the same time, I find some clients are there to teach you more than you're there to teach them anything. I have this amazing client when I was a meal prepper. Well, I was a meal prepper / ran a meal prep company, right? The whole thing was I was to go in and cook food for her and plan things out so that she could lose weight. But then we just ended up like, I'd cook, we'd chat, she'd make me coffee, we'd eat the cookies I made her.
We became best friends now.
Yeah, exactly. We travel around the world now. Like we've been to Italy together and London, and like she's like, you're like my daughter. And she gave me that push to believe in myself that like my company was amazing and like what I had done in that short period of time was cool. And she was older, so I really looked up to her as well. Yeah. And so it's like you'll find these teachers within your practice. You just have to be paying attention to them and take that on into your practice. And I think that is really important.
Super important. And the girls that I mentor who are new RHNs, I will always tell them, like when we're working with clients, and they're going to be attracted to you for different reasons. Like my mentor said once, you and I could do the same talk, like the exact same talk, and different people in the audience would book you or me, right? It just depends on how people are attracted to you. But it's so important that we understand that people are coming to us for a reason, and there's a lot of responsibility there. But you have to be open to that relationship shifting, right? Like a lot of times clients do turn into friends. A lot of times they turn into other opportunities. And it's really important for us to, like you said, take care of ourselves so that we're ready for or at our best for what experience can come out of that. Because like we never know, like you never thought that client was going to turn into that. Like, yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you never know what the opportunity is going to bring. Like it could bring a business endeavor. It could bring referrals. It could bring more abundance to you. Like energetically speaking as well as, and those are the things that fuel you in business as an entrepreneur, because I don't know, like we said, it's fucking hard. Like it's not an easy life. Like if you picked it, you got to learn that like there's a lesson in everything, and that you'll learn, and that things will get easier. But it's, I don't know, I find it pretty worthwhile. What about you?
Totally. Oh my God, I can't even imagine doing anything else. I can't even. And someone even asked me the other day, they were like, what would you do if you weren't a nutritionist? And I was just like, I like, I guess I would do like closet organizing, or like
That's
maybe be a
exactly what I
truck
would
driver or
do.
something. But like, I don't know. I can't. And I also was like, I'm super unemployable now. Like now that I've been self-employed for so long, it's like, even like in the summer, I was helping out farmers because we had a shortage of foreign workers here, right? In New Okanagan for the summer. So I was like, yeah, I'll do like, a few days of this, a few days of that. And so I did pretty much all of the fruits that we have here. And it was a great experience. But I mean, most of the farms are like, you just show up when you want, you leave when you want. One of them was like, okay, we'll see you at 6 a.m. And I was like, yeah, no, we'll see you at 7:30. Like, and I was like, I'm so unemployable because I've been self-employed for too long. And it's just like, no, I run my ship. Sorry. And I showed up at 7:30. They didn't care. It was hilarious. But I was like, man, if I ever had to go back to a real job, players would not be happy.
We tried, so when we moved here, we tried to do the whole, okay, we're going to like corporate Swiss, like we're just done with both having our businesses, like we need a break with the kids, with the move, with my fibro, and we're like, okay, Sean's gonna go do like a 9 to 5 job in this like kind of department store downtown, 10 minutes away. That's awesome. Like he's home for lunch. We lasted like, and I nannied. Well, actually, I cooked food for somebody and nannied. I think we lasted, let's see, Sean lasted 10 months before he quit the department store. And I was egging him like 4 months before that to be like, this is BS. Like, this is not how we work. We cannot function. No, we cannot do this. This is not us. We can't. And so we're so used to our space in our business and how amazing it is to be able to express yourself like this. And I think that's the beauty of it, of nutrition too, because you can do anything. Like
anything. There's so many avenues. Yeah, there's so many paths you can take it. And that's one of the really, really cool things about it. Like when you go to university and you study to become a nurse, you have to be a nurse. When you go to holistic nutrition school, you could do 20, 30 different things when you're done. Yeah. Oh my God, it's so great. But and the idea of creating your own job is like, it strikes fear in some people's hearts. For me, it was always like, that's cool. I don't understand it, but I want it. Yeah. And like, I don't know about you, probably you were the same as me, but like when I was young, and no one ever said to me, oh, whatever, 6-year-old Raina, you're going to be an entrepreneur when you grow up. Like no one ever said that to me. But like me and my brother were like, we were killing it. Like we would go and collect things in the neighborhood and then resell them to the neighbors. Yeah. Like we would have lemonade stands. We'd like 100%. Paint rocks and sell them. Right. Like we were always like, and we charged my mom for chores. Like we were always trying to make money. Yeah. We were so funny. And so it's like, even though I struggled with selling myself as a nutritionist, it was like, well, I know I have this skill somewhere because I was doing it before I had a proper adult brain, right? Yeah. Like it was coming naturally to me at one point. So let's just get back there where it feels natural to help people with that, right? People need those pine cones. They needed those ladybug painted rocks. Take it. It's only $1. Your garden needs it. Come on.
It's my joy. It's totally true. And well, okay, maybe it is just us. I don't know. But me and my brother were doing the same thing. We were selling like lemonade, or like we would go down to the corner store and we would buy 5-cent candies and we would repackage them for a like upsale. Yes. And I know, right? Like, and this is when we were like 9 and 12. And it's like, you're just, I knew. And so like, I was like, could I really be a mentor? But the more that I looked at like my work history, and this is how you find your niche, guys, the more that I looked at like what I was drawn to, what jobs I was excelling in when I was, working for people, it was always management. It was always an upper level. It was always quick to move. Like I always got to the top very quickly. And so you have to kind of look at that, look at your work history, your personality. Like, are you kind of subdued and are always the, like, I'm happy there, 9 to 5, I sit in my chair, I don't talk to anybody? Okay, well, maybe one-on-one is not your thing, you know, like public speaking might not be your thing. Can they be learned? Yes. But, you know, like it just depends on what you want to do with your life. And there's always roles within a nutrition business too, that you can do whatever you want in. Anyways, that's the beauty of it. But it is true that, like, I mean, I see it from when I was a young person, and you know what, it must be in my blood. I said this in my mentorship video on my website, because my son, who's 14, just started a lawn mowing company this summer down in Austin, Texas. And he's like bagged like $3,000 for his first car, and he's 14. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, okay, it definitely is genetics somewhere along the line.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
oh my God.
That's my first mentor, guys. Like my 14-year-old kid. Yeah. Anyways, he's funny. But anyway, well, voila, this is our talk, I guess. Do you have anything that you would like to add in that we have not covered?
Oh my God, it's already been an hour.
I know.
No, I don't. Well, I mean, if we just want to talk to niching, I think that I would just say, you know, don't feel pressure to get into it, because like as the layers of you come out, as you know, things change in your life, you're going to have new things that will add to like who you are, right? And so it's really hard to say, like, you know, I'm going to niche this way, I'm going to niche that. It's like you can just be you, and people want, you know, authenticity now on the internet. Like the internet is very smarmy now, and so anything that you can do that's like your weird little thing, you know, if you're like into fairies, or if you're like kind of gothic, or
how did you get that one into fairies? That was your first thought?
I don't know.
I love it.
I don't have any fairies in here. Oh, I know why. I was just visiting a friend at the Oyama Lake resort, and there was fairy gardens everywhere in the forest, and I was like, that's so cute. But little kids made them, and these little kids had made them, and there was like a fairy pet shop and a fairy home, and
that sounds sweet, that was actually
fresh on my mind. Yeah, but you know, whatever weird thing you're into, like if you're into horror movies, like have that as part of your branding. If you're whatever weird thing, because people, here's the thing, people, even if they're not into that thing, the fact that you're showing your true self, they will connect with you much faster. One of my first business coaches that I invested a lot of money in, and she helped me a shit ton. Her branding was how she used to be a stripper. And when I first came across her stuff, I was kind of like, I was quite conservative back then, still a little bit. And so I was kind of like, this is weird. Like, why would she talk about how she used to be a stripper? Like, that's really unprofessional. And now she's a business. Like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. But I kept reading her stuff. It was a little bit intoxicating that she didn't give a fuck. And she was going to talk about this really authentic and raw part of herself before she became a business professional. And just the fact that she was so open about it was intoxicating. And I kept following her, liked how bossy and sassy she was, because I'm like that, and eventually worked with her. So, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, even if you think it might turn people off at first, it probably won't.
Yeah.
And even if it does, they might be so intoxicated with why they're turned off by it that they'll still keep following you. And maybe they'll turn into a client, maybe not, but you still want a lot of people around you that are going to be supportive of what you're doing, whether or not they're clients. Like you need to have people that understand, you know, what you're trying to accomplish and are going to have your back. And oh my God, what we're doing is just so important. Like the world needs us so desperately right now. The world needs RHNs and healers so badly right now. So it's like both me and Lynne went through like the fear that people have, right, when you're first starting, and everyone, like, it's not a a special trait to be in business later. It's literally just being like, yes, I'm scared of that, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm scared of that, I'm going to do it anyway. And you just keep doing that. And probably this sounds cliche, but like, it's true. You have to push through those fears, and then eventually you have a business. And it's really exciting. It's super exciting because our business is based in a movement, and so we're helping people, and we are helping shift and change the world. And it's like, now is the time. Oh my God, it's so exciting. I'm so excited by it.
Well, I love talking to you, obviously, and you've been like one of our like fans since the beginning. So I really appreciate you coming and jamming with me today. I feel like we could talk for hours. Like,
oh my God, are you kidding me? Yeah, I'm like, do you have till 2 p.m.?
Yeah, exactly.
We totally could.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when you said like, if I wasn't a nutritionist, I would organize closets. Like, girl, that is like, I don't think you watch Netflix probably, but in my downtime right now, there's some Instagram famous closet organizers on there. And that's what I've been watching in my downtime.
That's what you're binging.
Yep. That's where I'm at right now. Binging is very light. It's like 15 minutes when I'm not working on my mentorship program right now. So I'm like,
that's good.
Yeah. Yep. That's my self-care, is like meditation, yoga, and 15 minutes of closet organization.
Closet organization. I love it.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to binge on. Like,
right?
What's wrong with that?
It's like it's helping
Everyone needs more organized closets.
Well, it's like when I'm feeling uncomfortable, one of my coping mechanisms is to like actually get up and like clean obsessively.
Yeah, clean's my therapy too.
Yeah, 100%. But I've hired a cleaner so that I have more time to actually work.
Wow.
So now this is like my outlet to be like,
that's weird for you.
Yeah, super weird.
Yeah.
And like also letting go of the little things in the cleaning that she doesn't do as well as I would do. You know, like
we're the same person, Lynne. Our brains. Oh my God, that like, and then I'm like, and then I would be like trying to not be OCD about it, because I'd be like, I'm trying to just let it go and go with the flow. But then the little like cleaner brain is like, no, she missed that. That's a problem.
Sean hates it, but it's like the reality. He's like, you literally have OCD, Lynne. And I'm like, I know, I'm working on it. It's
working on it.
Of pent up emotion, and it's coming anyways. So
it gives you a chance to observe, right? It's like, okay, I'll let this test me. Let this test me.
I'm testing my abilities to sit outside of myself and just witness that I'm making a bigger deal out of it than I need to be. So anyways, real talk.
It is real talk. and I think that's like with your clients too, right? It's like, whatever experience is happening here, I know this lesson is for me too. Like, I always get so much out of, and a lot of times too, when I talk to clients, the things that I'm saying, I'm like, oh, damn it, that wasn't for them. That's for me. I'm talking to myself right now. Right. And it's like this huge slap across the face, but you don't see that unless you're paying attention. So if you're paying attention and really observing, then it becomes a lesson for you too. And then that's how, like, your practice can become a platform for you to improve as a person.
Well, that's why we call it a practice.
Think about that at all. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
totally.
why we call it a practice. I mean, we think about, when we hear, most of us who are not, who are in this like arena will know, like, if we hear the word practice, we're thinking yoga, getting down and practicing yoga. No, it's practicing like showing up and having a little ritual and being grateful and showing appreciation for everything that is around us. And our practice is the same. Like, so when we're practicing, we're really practicing that with another person, which is very powerful.
I love it. Yeah, the work that we're doing is so powerful. It's so exciting. And thank you for having me, because I love talking about this. You're right, we could totally chat for hours and hours. And the work that you're doing to help usher more people into what we're doing is so needed, obviously, because people need those support systems and those tools to be able to actually do it. And you're giving them the opportunity. So thank you. Because it's like cute and fun to say the world needs more of us, but it's like, yeah, but how? And you're actually doing the how.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank
Well,
you.
and I think that's the part that is missing is the how.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're getting there. That's what we're working on. And thanks for your contribution into our like nutrition chat today. And also the
Super
free
good.
business course that you also contributed to.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. And thanks for being super cool for just being in your van and showing it like it is in real life.
This is a real life in the day of a holistic nutritionist who lives in a van. She's a weirdo.
Yeah, the hippie nutritionist. This is how we all are, just so you know. Like, amazing.
Oh, totally.
All right.
Thanks, Lynn.